Hi guys, in this video I will teach you the 3 things your business must have to succeed. So the first one, you must have at least 50% gross margin. This is a critical part that I've seen many of my friends fail at, and that's the reason their business has failed. So 50% gross margin, that means once you've sold your good, your cost of this good is maximum 50%. Maximum. The reason it's so important is you will make money from day one. Let's say the first sale comes in at $1,000. You just made yourself $500 to pay your employees, to pay your hosting, to pay yourself something. It's critical. Almost all the problems I've seen my friends have. Now, note, this is 7 years of business. I've been building companies now since 2011. And almost everyone who failed did not have this. It is going to be very difficult to find a company that's struggling terribly, that's making 50% gross margins, and people love it. So you have to have 50% gross margins, which means the cost of your goods has to be maximum 50%. So for example, in our case, my company Promolta, we pay 50% maximum to the publishers who display the videos and 50% to us. And that gives us tremendous power to market our product, to reach more customers, to pay really talented employees, and to make sure we made something. So this was a critical part that helped us to survive, which is 50% margin from the beginning. Now note, you can't say some nonsense like, hey, it's gonna make 50% margin in 5 years, but we gotta stick it out at 0 until then. That means you violate the rule. You have to have 50% margin on your first sale. So 1, you have to have 50% gross margin. 2, you have to be able to build a technology, guys. I'm gonna tell you a story with this lesson. So when we were evaluating which business to build, we specifically looked for which technology can we realistically build and be really good at. That means me, and I'm not technical, I don't code. I had to be able to understand everything in the product, exactly how it works, exactly how to test it. So I specifically build the type of tech products that I can build, that I can perfectly understand. And I want you to think of this one friend of mine. I once had a friend who was non-technical. She was a girl. She was a really smart girl, but she was non-technical and she disobeyed this rule, and her startup, of course, failed. She tried to build an image recognition startup, which means she took a photo and the picture instantly recognized the item and pulled up the item. The challenge is there's many problems to build this, especially if you're just one girl and one engineer, right? There's 2 of them. They were not able to build it. They spent I think a year or year and a half of their time completely wasted. And the whole thing failed and shut down. So you have to evaluate, can I realistically build this technology and to build exactly what's needed? And to give you an example, I wouldn't have pursued to build Google search. I mean, there's just too much stuff associated with the queries and the cases associated with search to where I wouldn't have pursued building that. But I think we could have built Facebook, we could have built Twitter, we could have built Snapchat, we could have built WhatsApp, which most of the companies, or I wouldn't have pursued building a company like Cloudflare. It's like a security company, right? Since I'm not technical, for me to build Cloudflare, which is to ensure the security of everything you have is safe, is not a good bet. But I could have built Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, those type of companies, or LinkedIn. So rule number 2, you have to be able to build a technology. Rule number 3, critical rule. Now note, there's only 3 rules. If your business is missing any one of these 3, you will struggle. Rule number 3, you have to be able to reach and get your customers to pay you. I'll say it again. You have to be able to reach and get your customers to pay you. This is a critical point. I can't even begin to describe how many people I've seen over the past 7 years fail just because of this point. They were able to have, let's say, some margin, 50% margin. They can build a technology, but they can never reach the customers or get them to pay. The model never works. The cost of acquisition and reaching this guy just doesn't work. So they spend so much time, but they can never conquer this 3rd point. The way that I, from beginning, tried to make sure that this point number 3 works for us is, from the time we had an idea for Promolta, our company, we said, let's try to sell it and see if customers actually pay us. Let's see if we can reach the customers and get them to pay us. So from the time we had an idea for Promolta, within 30 days, we sold thousands of dollars in sales. Thousands. Like from the time we were like, okay, so let's try this video advertising thing. From the beginning of this, from the ideation, we put up the splash page and we sold thousands of dollars in that first 30 days. So we knew that we can reach the customers and we can get them to pay. You can execute this pretty quickly. Like I always recommend, start selling it now. Like there's never too late to start selling it, because you can either warm up your leads or get them ready to buy your product as soon as it's ready, and just sell it even before it's ready. When it's still being worked on, just put up and let them pay you for it. So in summary, the 3 rules your business must have to succeed is 1, you have to make at least 50% gross margin. 2, you have to be able to build a technology. And 3, you have to be able to reach and get your customers to pay you. One small note I'd like to address is you might come back and say, hey, well, what about businesses like Facebook, like PayPal, which makes 4%? Yeah, some of those do, but if you take, I think, 100 people who qualify with these 3 rules, I mean, unless their team is completely messed up and they have no perseverance, a lot of them are going to be successful with these 3 rules. A lot of them. Versus if you were building a business like PayPal, which you can never pay yourself, you're always losing money for many, many years. Most of them will fail and have nothing. So what I recommend for you to do is make millions of dollars. Build a successful company that makes millions of dollars. Like, if you have a previous exit under your belt, let's say you sold your company for 50, 60, $100 million, I understand if your next attempt is maybe that type of company. But if you have not sold your company for 50, $100 million, why would you not want to make a company that's first worth $50 million or $100 million and work your way up? That's what I recommend for you to do. So these 3 rules were critical to our success. And if you follow these 3 rules, you will be successful. Like your business will work, the fundamentals will work, and you'll be able to pay really talented people and yourself for your time. And I think you'll be extremely happy. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions for me, tweet me to @VladDoes and I'll answer you personally. Bye!